Michael was the greatest showman ever seen. His dancing was the most charismatic of the rock era.
When I was just real little, I used to watch Sammy Davis, Fred Astaire, and James Brown, and just dancing about the house. So I don't remember not dancing.
I met Michael at Sammy Davis's house when he was about 12. And he just, you just fall in love with Michael at any age.
He's just an amazing person. He's incredible. He really is. And I'm not saying that just because he's my brother.
I think he wants to look like what he perceives as makes him feel happy about himself, you know? I do think he's quite beautiful, though, by the way.
Most of my dreams seem to come true, and I'm so thankful that they do.
An arrest warrant for Mr. Jackson has been issued.
Please keep an open mind and let me have my day in court. I deserve a fair trial like every other American citizen.
The singer Michael Jackson is reported to have died from a heart attack.
One wish would be as simple as making the whole world happy and world peace, and that is part of the reason why I do what I do. Honored that the world appreciates my art.
When we first started singing, my mom was an avid country western singer, and she used to love this song called Cotton Fields Back Home, I used to join in and sing harmony with her. Little baby, my mama used to rock me in the cradle. And say, oh, boy, cotton fields back home.
We love that music thing, and I think all great things happen at that point.
Great things influenced by some great musicians and some great tunes.
Temptations, the whole Motown era. My Girl, Papa was a Rolling Stone.
When Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown, signed the Jackson 5, he assembled a group of songwriters and producers, and he said, give me 3 number ones for the first 3 releases by this group. And in the end, he had 4 number ones with the first 4 releases, and then 2 number 2s. They were almost instantly huge stars, and Michael was the focal point. I saw Michael Jackson perform with the Jackson 5, and he and they were galvanizing. They had these colorful costumes, choreographed routines, and he had this charisma. Of course he was standing out from his brothers. We all know that. Right from the very first scream at the beginning of I Want You Back, he was the one who was the one.
I met him when he was 5 years old at the Apollo Theater singing Who's Loving You, emulating Smokey Robinson, our hero of Motown recordings. And James Brown, his father had brought them to the Apollo, and they were on the show with some adults, and Michael was singing very much like an adult, as if he knew what he was singing about. So how would he know, how would he feel that? How blessed this child is. 2 years later, he was at Motown Records.
It was only natural that Motown would spin him off as a solo artist. He had a top 10 with his first solo release, and after he'd had Rockin' Robin and Got to Be There, he had his big number 1, Ben. But the real big news was when Michael made his first solo album for Epic, Off the Wall. Quincy Jones was the musical director,
I met Michael at Sammy Davis's house when he was about 12. And you just fall in love with Michael at any age. And the whiz was when we really connected. Then he was a scarecrow, and he'd pull out bits of paper, quotes with Confucius, etc., all these great philosophers. And one time he says, blah, 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 sign Socrates. And he kept saying Socrates, 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 and nobody would correct him. And after a while, I took him over to the side. I said, Michael, forgive me if but it's Socrates, And at that moment, our eyes met, and something happened that's never changed since then.
With Off the Wall, he only had a Grammy win in a rhythm and blues category, and he was very depressed. He'd had all these hits, and yet the industry still saw him as a rhythm and blues artist. And Quincy Jones said, well, the reward you got was the pleasure you gave. But that's why when Thriller happened, he reveled in the Grammy wins. And that year he had 7 Grammys for the Thriller material and another Grammy for Best Children's Album, which was E.T. And from that point on, he wanted to be the king of pop.
I pretty much did the album and just sat back and watched because it was another one of my dreams. I always love watching the children when they wear all the gear and everything and imitate me. I think it's fun. It's done in good taste. It's just a series of collecting songs and writing songs in my mind over a period of years or whatever. And it's hard to say how one creates music because it's hard for me to take credit. I feel it's more spiritual and heavenly than I can't take credit.
Thousands of fans of the most popular star of the 80s converged early on Wembley to be met by scores of touts, some of whom were asking but never getting £100 for a ticket. Security around the stadium was high profile, 1,000 guards from companies hired by Jackson's managers to protect the star's business interests. There was a crackdown on people selling merchandise bearing Jackson's image. The fans, as expected, were ecstatic.
You must be the best man on earth to give you a show. He is terrific.
Good dancer, good dancer.
Dancer is fantastic.
The audience was made up of people of all ages.
Years old.
Daughter,
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
Up to my age.
How old are you?
42.
People all over the world could take to Michael Jackson without knowing the English language. Carlos Acosta said the boys in Cuba didn't know what he was saying, but it didn't matter because it sounded good and he looked great. And this makes Michael the first great pop star of the visual era.
Are you a Michael Jackson fan?
Yeah.
What do you like about him?
Everything.
Tell me, what numbers do you like of his?
All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Black and white and all his numbers.
We need food, we need water.
But more than anything else, we need Michael!
I love you, Michael Jackson.
Wearing his now customary black mask, the pop star headed south for his next concert venue, farewelled by Queensland fans. Jackson arrived in Melbourne a short time ago to a very enthusiastic welcome. In an interview for Hey Hey It's Saturday, he said he is a workaholic who hardly ever relaxes. His first Melbourne concerts will be at the MCG tomorrow night.
was just real little, I used to watch Sammy Davis, Fred Astaire, and James Brown, and just dancing about the house.
His dancing was the most charismatic of the so-called rock era. His dance steps, he studied Fred Astaire, James Brown, and Marcel Marceau, from whom he got the moonwalk.
Michael, this way. To your left, Michael.
So much of what we think is just miraculous because it looks so seamless is actually the result of hard work, learning how to join elements of a dance together to make it look like a spontaneous flow. Michael Jackson actually has a patent for that leaning over stance that makes him look like he's defying gravity. And what it was he had holes in his shoes and pegs on stage so that if he planted his shoes on the pegs, he could lean over in Smooth Criminal and look like he was actually defying gravity. That just goes to show how his imagination was working over time for the dance.
My favorite thing about doing this screen video is it was really an excuse to work with my sister Janet.
Now here's a strange thing, Michael Jackson without his face mask. Yesterday he'd arrived at Heathrow looking as if he was taking precautions against foot and mouth disease. Perhaps by today his advisors had convinced him that it can't be caught by humans. Outside the Lanesborough Hotel today, another kind of virus was proving to be virulent. It's highly contagious among a certain type of young person and makes them think this of Michael Jackson.
The most gifted human being you could possibly encounter.
Young women fought to get closer to their messiah. Followers had come from all over Europe. This girl had come specially from Germany to get a glimpse.
Why? Because he's gorgeous, beautiful, he's just everything.
All were passionate in defending Jackson against those who sneer. This young man had travelled from Spain.
You know, I would like people to understand, that Michael is a good person. He's got a big heart.
After nearly 3 days holed up in his Bangkok hotel, Michael Jackson finally emerged tonight. Hundreds of young fans mobbed his van as it left, but behind the dark glass, there was no glimpse to be had of the reclusive superstar. At the stadium, police were on hand to prevent fans getting close to Jackson as he arrived to perform his twice-postponed Bangkok concert. The show was a sellout. 40,000 fans crammed into the open-air National Stadium. Most with tickets, but many without, trying to force their way in. Tonight, Michael Jackson was playing for royalty. The younger members of the Thai royal family invited along.
The world's highest-paid pop star was stopped and searched for drugs as he arrived at Heathrow this afternoon. It was just the beginning of the ordeal for Jackson and his entourage, which included a turbaned cook and a Los Angeles policeman acting as a bodyguard. Ahead lay an onslaught by fans and photographers. Jackson has described the experience as being like a bowl of spaghetti with everyone pulling in different directions. It's the singer's first trip to Britain for 2 years. He's due to stay on until Monday. He's due at Madame Tussauds on Thursday for a preview of his wax figure. He's pleased about it, but says they have 3 statues of him in America. David Chater, ITN, at Heathrow. Outside, his fans were getting impatient, waiting for the real thing. Some of them unfortunately passed out even before their idol arrived. Then Michael Jackson's besieged Daimler appeared and only just managed to push its way through the crowd. And knowing through bitter experience what the fans would do if they got their hands on him, he made a quick dash for the door.
Yes, Michael left. Over here. Michael, we don't see you at the left.
Over here. Over here, please, Mr. Jackson.
Then it was back outside for one farewell wave to his fans. David Chater, News at 10 at Madame Tussauds.
This is the tale of a pop star, a photographer, some sick children and a bucket of manure. First the star, a 33-year-old millionaire who's come to London to sing and dance. Then the photographer, whose 600mm lens has landed the Mirror in court, Jackson suing them for saying rude things about his face. Enter the bucket of manure. Outraged fans threw it over the Mirror Man to avenge their idol.
I like to sneak into theaters without being noticed sometimes. Sometimes there's really nothing you can do about it. It's the price you have to pay. I have incredible disguises. I can fool my own mother. And I enjoy doing it because I get to see life the way it really is sometimes, which is fun. I love children and animals and Quincy and Frank, Quincy. And that's what's so wonderful about traveling. I get to see all the cultures and people and the children. It's wonderful. It's my greatest inspiration, I would say.
Before taking to the stage, Michael Jackson marked his return to Britain with gifts for disadvantaged children. He presented the Variety Club of Great Britain with 6 coaches. They'll be used to take children from around the country to his other UK shows before being given to schools.
I like to say children will always hold a special place in my heart. So from Heal the World and myself, I present this present. There's more where this comes from. Thank you.
The single greatest achievement of Michael Jackson for charity was co-writing We Are the World, which became the American Quincy Jones-produced famine relief record. It was the response to Do They Know It's Christmas, Bob Geldof and Midge Ure's project with Band-Aid. When you hear Michael Jackson's demo of We Are the World, you realize that actually that song was probably more than 50% him.
I remember waking up from my sleep the next morning before putting it down, really. Most of the song was there, and I went in the studio and kind of did a demo and presented it. And first Quincy asked me to do it with Lionel, you know. And I remember calling Quincy, telling him I had the tape. And then Lionel put some lyric to it. And I hate saying who did what, but...
Michael, it's now my great pleasure to present you with a check for $1 million. This represents the money Pepsi-Cola pledges to raise in Europe this summer, with our best wishes for Heal the World.
That one song raised millions. But he and the brothers did other charity work as well. And Save the Children was a charity that they helped. Of course, the brothers would have done more if the value of their endorsement had been as great as Michael. but hardly anybody's endorsement was as substantial as that of Michael.
I hardly have such important people as yourself in this place. And now that you have been here, I feel that this is a real honor indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I shall be undertaking 2 concerts in June, one in Seoul in the Republic of Korea and one in Munich. And I shall be inviting some of my friends to help me during the shows by performing at either one or both of the venues. He has certainly been my inspiration to want to do something before the end of the century, to undertake what I call an adventure of humanity before the birth of the millennium. I love this man very much, and I love Africa.
He's just an amazing person. He's incredible. He really is. I'm not saying that just because he's my brother, because if he were an idiot, I'd say I'm not happy with him. Exactly, just like I did my sister.
He has made a great contribution to art, to music, and I'm very happy that he is in our country.
It is my pleasure. It is my honor to be here in South Africa. I love you people very much. I've had the time of my life here. I've had so much fun. I hate to leave. And I'm definitely looking for a home here to buy, because I would love to spend the rest of my life here. And we are definitely coming in January. And this is a wonderful, lovely man, and I love Nelson Mandela very much. And thank you for all your hospitality and all your love. Thank you very much.
You want to drink this?
Okay.
Have you thought of composing a song about our president?
Yes, very much. I'm working on it now.
When?
I was working on it last night.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I love you. I love you.
We know your interest in the sideshow, but in the central issue that confronts real people's lives, the issue of AIDS in Africa, we are grateful to Mr. Jackson for bringing all of your attention to this critical issue. We now only hope, and we now only pray that you will report that more than a dozen African ambassadors were here,
who are dying from HIV and AIDS. This is also about help.
And Michael Jackson will go to Africa on the specific basis of fighting the scourge of AIDS and economic development.
That wasn't loud enough.
For a man who will have his own child in February, Michael Jackson today described this as the highlight of his Australian tour so far.
This is for you.
Thank you.
I'll sign a picture for you too.
At the Sydney Children's Hospital, Jackson played Father Christmas a month early. Again, no sign of his new bride, the performer spending 2 hours inside, given special visiting rights to gravely ill children in the cancer ward.
Can we get something for her, a toy?
The self-styled champion of children dished out thousands of dollars in presents, dolls, toys and computer games. Jackson taking time to play. The gifts for some outsizing the patients.
How do you spell your name?
Clearly enjoying himself, a cameraman's stumble proved a good joke. But while it was here the softly spoken star seemed most comfortable, his real performance was at the Opera House. A 30-foot-high Jackson statue was floated down the harbour, 10,000 fans almost drowning out their idol.
I love each and every one of you very much.
And after a brief appearance, he was gone. As he pleased the fans, his reclusive wife left their Sydney hotel for a flight to Brisbane, hidden in this van. However, after such a high-profile day, Michael Jackson returned to his hotel late this afternoon to pack his bags, slipping through a back entrance. But tonight, Jacko is stuck in Sydney, his private jet to Brisbane grounded by bad weather.
Michael's manager, cigar-smoking Frank DeLeo. He joined the interview as Michael's friend and chief minder. Now, about those headlines.
Does it affect you? Does it hurt you to see some idiotic stories that are written?
Yeah, I'll answer that question if you don't mind. It hurts me. If it hurts me, I know it hurts Michael. He's a little more blasé about it than I am. I mean, he just sort of shrugs it off. But I find it very terrible that some of the stuff that is written, particularly about plastic surgery, and the majority of it, not the majority, all of it is garbage and rubbish. And, you know, if that's the best thing that's the only thing they can figure out to do with their life, then, you know, they're pretty sick people.
What surprises me sometimes, the people that get distracted and myopic about Michael's eccentricities when they listen to his music and watch his performance, that's like somebody saying, hey, there's a cobweb on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel.
When Michael and Quincy Jones were no longer working together, Michael wrote almost all his own material, produced himself most of the time, and thus his idiosyncrasies came to the fore. The twin themes that became disturbingly apparent for those of them who had followed him his entire life were sentimentality and paranoia. The paranoia revealed in songs like They Don't Care About Us and Scream, and the sentimentality in Earth Song, Heal the World, the songs about children. And that tied in with the changes he was making to his own body in the interest of looking forever young, hence Peter Pan of pop. And by the year 1995, I'd grown so disturbed by what I considered his obvious emotional decline that I went on breakfast television the day that he floated a large statue of himself down the River Thames to promote the album History. And I said, I am not enjoying this, and I'm not going to add in this media hoopla, because I think what we're seeing here is the deterioration of a great talent, as with Judy Garland. And unless people are real with him, and he is real with himself and turns himself around, this will not end happily. It was the most obvious thing in the world. It didn't necessarily have to end with his death.
Michael and I had a close relationship because we just became really very, very close.
It's been said that Michael Jackson underwent plastic surgery to make himself look more like you.
I don't think so.
Is that true?
No, I don't think he has. No one's ever told me. He's never told me that. I don't think so.
But is it unnerving for you to have a young man that's undergone plastic surgery to make himself look like you?
Well, I don't think he's trying to look like me. I really don't. I think he wants to look like what he perceives as makes him feel happy about himself, you know? I don't think he's trying to look like me. I do think he's quite beautiful, though, by the way.
I think everybody in the music industry who is more interested in the music than the cult of celebrity is embarrassed by the amount of attention given to the personal life of Michael Jackson, but understands that the public was drawn to it because it was like watching a car crash. It's hard not to watch. If you know there's going to be a car crash in 5 seconds, you tend to look rather than turn away. And when Michael had marriages of convenience, people in the music business just kind of bit their tongue. They knew that the marriage to Lisa Marie was certainly an empathetic match. She knew well what it was like for a man to be the biggest star in the world. But that didn't mean that there was a hope for a serious long-term romantic relationship. People in the music business knew Michael Jackson, and they knew that this was not on the cards. So you swallowed hard, waited for the divorce, and it came, and then the next one happened with Debbie Rowe.
On the first day of his honeymoon, Michael Jackson finally left his hotel suite late in the day without his new bride. It was hard to tell if there was a smile behind the mask, and he wasn't talking, but the newlyweds seemed happy. Last night, Jackson had only just finished his first Australian concert when the word got out.
Michael, is it true you plan on getting married?
Are you getting married? No comment, but the masked one seemed surprised. In fact, his wife-to-be, Debbie Rowe, was waiting inside their hotel suite. The ceremony taking place shortly after midnight, a close circle of management and minders, the only guests.
He wanted children, he didn't want a wife. And he didn't see any of the other modern ways of having children as being viable for him. But Michael Jackson embraced the title, King of Pop, and took it so seriously that he named both his male children Prince Michael. Not after the recording artist Prince, but they were the young versions of Michael the King. That's taken it a bit far.
I have suffered and dealt with the same kind of medical problem now afflicting my friend Michael Jackson. Because of that, and because of our friendship, when Michael's doctor called to ask if I could help, I was glad to intervene. I traveled to Mexico City, where I saw for myself that Michael was in desperate need of specialized medical attention. Because of my own experience with addiction to prescription medicines, I was able to make a number of calls in search of the best and most appropriate treatment for Michael, and he is now undergoing such treatment in Europe. Out of respect for his privacy, which I know to be extremely important at this time, I have not spoken publicly about our movements or about Michael's exact location. And because of my regard for him and my concern for his health, I will continue to be silent.
I didn't know about the prescription drugs, but I did know that he had certain physical things that he was dealing with, you know. So no, I didn't know to that degree that it was that serious or that dangerous.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What's so special about tonight? What's so special about tonight's performance for you? What makes it so great? What makes it such a great night for you?
It's a reunion, and I'm honored that the world appreciates my art. I'm very honored.
Never. Are you excited to be back with your brothers? Yeah, excited? All of us? Elizabeth, how great is Michael as a man? You know him well as a person. How great is he as a man?
Well, he's one of my closest friends, and we know more about each other probably than any two people. And I love him, and he loves me.
That's why to this day I don't lay a finger on my children. I don't want them to ever feel that way about me.
I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent.
Well, I must tell you that this is very difficult for me, that Michael is my brother. I love him a great deal, but I cannot and I will not be a silent collaborator of his crimes against small, innocent children. And if I remain silent, then that means that I feel the guilt and the humiliation that these children are feeling, and I think it's very wrong. I have seen checks payable to the parents of these children. And I don't know if these children were apparently bought to the parents by Michael or not. But I have seen these checks, and I've seen these checks through my mother. She's shown me these checks that Michael have written to these children, and it's for a great amount. And I'm not speaking pennies. The sums are a very, very large amount. And this is my first time talking about it, and I never want to speak about it. I never want to say anything about it. But I think it's sad because I am a victim myself, and I know what it feels like. And these kids are going to be scarred for the rest of their life, and I don't want to see any more innocent small children being affected this way. I love Michael very dearly, but I feel even more sorry for these children because they don't have a life anymore. They don't. Now you stop and you think for 1 second and you tell me what 35-year-old man is going to take a little boy and stay with him for 30 days and take another boy and stay with him for 5 days.
The hardest thing for me has been more than just 6 months back. It was when LaToya first got out there with this man that she's with. And you know, it's haven't been no let up. We thought it would die after a while, especially lies. You think they die down after a while. But every little opportunity they get, they come out with more. And I think they're using this now to come out with more. I can't speak for Michael, but I know one thing. Michael is not guilty. I've talked to him before, and I think he'll be fine because he has nothing to be ashamed of.
He's strong.
So he's very strong. He'll just come out.
We have concluded that because the young boy who was the catalyst for this investigation has recently informed us that he does not wish to participate in any criminal proceeding where he is named as a victim, that we must decline prosecution involving Mr. Jackson.
Michael paid the father of the boy millions. Some people take that as an admission of guilt. But according to Janet, Michael was trying to say,
look, leave me alone. I'm sick of your crap. You're after money. You've said it here. Get out of my life. Now, if this really went on, do you think a father would accept money, that would make it okay, that would make everything all right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I know that if that were my son, I'm sorry. I don't care if you gave me $1 billion. I want to see you either behind bars or dead for the rest of your life for doing that to my son or my daughter. It's crazy. The guy was after money is what he wanted.
An investigation by police culminated in a raid on Neverland by 75 officers. Gavin alleged abuse, and Jackson's nightmare unfolded.
The felony complaint involves 9 counts. 7 counts of 288A in violation of the California Penal Code, commonly known as child molestation, and 2 counts in violation of Penal Code Section 222 that involves administering an intoxicating liquor to a child for the purpose of committing a felony. Those are the 9 counts.
He's gotta go. He's gotta go out. Move over a little bit so we can get everybody in here. Move over a little bit. Everybody needs to talk. Okay. Everybody wants to take our line. Yeah, everybody on. Back on here. He's got to go. He's got to go out. Everybody needs to move back. Step back. Get through. Stop. Everybody needs to move back. Step back. Get through.
Michael Jackson, leaving the courthouse with his mother at his side, stands accused of an extraordinary catalogue of offences, including child abduction and molestation, false imprisonment and extortion. The so-called King of Pop was wearing a red armband, but this was a far from regal appearance by his standards. Instead of dark shades, he wore sober spectacles. The scene was in contrast to Jackson's previous appearance at the court, when he'd upset the judge by arriving late and then playing to the gallery of his fans.
First of all, I want everyone to know it's a great honor and privilege to appear in this courthouse before Judge Melville, who is an outstanding and fair and very decent judge. This case is about one thing only. It's about the dignity, the integrity, the decency, the honor, the charity, the innocence, and the complete vindication of a wonderful human being named Michael Jackson. Thank you.
After his lawyer of just a few days had spoken, Jackson himself addressed the small community from which his trial jury is likely to be chosen.
I would like to thank the fans around the world. I would like to thank the fans around the world for your love and your support from every corner of the earth. My family, who's been very supportive, my brother Randy, who's been incredible. I want to thank the community of Santa Maria. I want you to know that I love the community of Santa Maria very much. It's my community. I love the people. I will always love the people. My children were born in this community. My home is in this community. I will always love this community from the bottom of my heart. That's why I moved here. Thank you very much.
The singer's adversary is the local district attorney. The pair clashed over earlier allegations against Jackson, which were settled out of court. The Jackson camp say the attorneys exceeded his proper role in gathering evidence. The star's fans, some from Britain, remain staunch.
You just look into the man's eyes, he loves children. Look at what he built, Neverland. That's someone who loves kids. He's a child that never grew up.
I travelled to the other ends of the earth to support Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson denies all the allegations against him. The next hearing in the case is due in a month's time. The substantive trial won't be heard until the autumn at the earliest.
Please keep an open mind and let me have my day in court. I deserve a fair trial like every other American citizen. I will be acquitted and vindicated when the truth is told.
Greed begets greed. Mr. Jackson now realizes that the advice he received was wrong. He should have fought these actions to the bitter end and vindicated himself. The recent publicity about these settlements is unfair and damaging to him, his family, and his dedication to the world's children. The charges he faces are false and will be battled in a court of law within our justice system. He is innocent and will be vindicated.
After more than a year of pre-trial preparation, the case of the people versus Michael Jackson is finally underway. A small crowd of fans braving the rain and outnumbering protesters as the 46-year-old prepared for the fight of his life. Jackson accompanied by his mother, her son now facing 4 counts of child abuse against a 13-year-old boy. And it's in this jury room that the so-called Jackson 12 will decide the singer's fate. 8 women, 4 men, mostly white and Hispanic, and none black. Jackson's defense expected to play the race card if their case goes badly. This morning, District Attorney Tom Snedden laid out the prosecution's case. His indictment claims Jackson abused the boy between February and March 2003. But this afternoon, defence lawyer Tom Mesereau is expected to question the credibility of Gavin Arvizo's mother, Janet, claiming she has a history of lying for money and has coaxed her son to do the same. A short time ago, a show of defiance from the superstar just after the prosecution had alleged that the singer had masturbated 13-year-old Arvizo twice. The boy's brother expected to be called as a witness. If found guilty on all charges, Michael Jackson facing up to 20 years in jail.
In the United States, he is regarded as one of the greatest courtroom interrogators. But there was only one question on Tom Mesereau's lips today. Where was his client? In frustration, he paced up and down, making frantic phone calls. Jackson had failed to show for the trial's most crucial day. The judge not impressed. News reached court officials. Jackson was in hospital again, this time with back pain.
There's now an unconfirmed report he's on his way back from Santa Ynez Hospital.
In showbiz, there are dramatic entrances, and then there is Michael Jackson. He limped into court, and with those pyjama bottoms he was wearing, the back pain suffering Mr. Jackson still managed a turn and a wave to his fans. So has the star simply buckled under pressure? Was the strain too much of seeing his accuser in court?
What happened this morning? How's your back? Hold on. Where are you, Mike? Tell us about your back. Mr. Jackson asked me to make a statement here. He tripped this morning and he fell in the early morning hours while he was getting dressed. His back is in terrible pain. He was in terrible discomfort during the entire trial proceedings. He's going to go home, recuperate, rest and relax, and he'll be back on Monday, and he's looking forward to being here. And he went to the emergency room this morning, and he was given medications, so he'll be back on Monday, and we all thank you so very much. You take care.
How did it feel watching the accuser testify?
Sorry.
Michael, how was it facing your accuser?
Sorry, I can't speak now.
Okay.
Are you hurting right now, Michael?
Yes, very much.
Well, I hope he's innocent. I hate to see it happen, but I have children of my own, and if he's guilty, then I hope they punish him real well. They say he may need help.
If some kid can tell you what Michael Jackson's penis looked like, we got a problem.
What's interesting at the moment is that, you know, the waiting continues. It's been a week now, but what's clearly happening here is confrontation. The people have got bored, things getting tense, and you're seeing everyone shouting at each other at the moment.
Well, there's a concern whenever you have two opposing emotions colliding, but I think that we've done a good job of intervening quick to keep the sides apart, and for the most part, the fans have been cooperative with us.
Innocent! Michael! Innocent!
Day 31 of the Jackson trial, and time for a diminutive mother of four, Janet Arvizo, to take centre stage. Her evidence could end the career of a pop legend. Michael Jackson and his team know that if the jury believe her, it'll be disastrous to their case. She's the mother of the boy who accuses the singer of abusing him, and she alleges her entire family were held hostage by the pop star. Before she started her evidence, Judge Rodney Melville told the jury that Janet Arvizo wouldn't be answering questions on Social Security payments in case she incriminated herself. By the end of the day, Janet Arvizo seemed shell-shocked, desperate to avoid further publicity. Still to come, questions from Jackson's defence team, who must now feel that they can score some points. Juliet Bremner, ITV News in the United States. She's the woman who probably knows Michael Jackson better than anyone. Debbie Rowe is his ex-wife and mother of his two children. Now she's about to take the oath and testify against him. The pop star has every reason to fear her evidence. She's fighting him for custody of the children and is angry that her multi-million-dollar allowance has been stopped. It's unlikely, though, that she'll be able to trawl over the ruins of their relationship.
Believe me, Judge Melville will not allow that to happen. He's going to be very tight.
Tom Mesereau and his defence team are certain to challenge this. They'll also want to highlight Debbie Rowe's willingness to hand over her infants in exchange for a big payout. And there's no doubt that the woman who was once a nurse in a skin clinic will gain. If Michael Jackson is convicted, she'll get the children back.
For once in his life, Michael Jackson was not the centre of attention, even though this has been a crucial day in his trial. The focus instead was on the defence's first celebrity witness, the actor Macaulay Culkin. The prosecution had suggested that in the early 1990s, he was one of a number of young boys who had been sexually abused by Jackson.
Macaulay Culkin almost single-handedly devastated and shook the foundation of the prosecution's pattern evidence against Michael Jackson.
Certainly, if the jury believes Culkin, it will be a significant boost for the defence and would undermine two prosecution witnesses who have already testified they saw Jackson inappropriately touching the actor.
From across the world, fans are here to scream their support for Jackson and contempt for the prosecutor. Jackson is approaching Judgment Day. The dramatic twists and turns of this trial are over. It's all down now to the power of attorneys. The fanatical noise outside this small-town courtroom is a sideshow. Jackson's liberty or incarceration depends now on the performance behind these doors.
It is difficult waiting, but we're confident, we're keeping spirits up. We're here to support Michael and show him that there are people behind him.
It's pretty tense, you know, you're waiting for the verdict and, you know, you're out in the sun, you know, and you're just waiting for that day to happen, and I'm hoping it's going to be soon.
The pinnacle moment of tension when fanaticism erupted into euphoria. Repeated acquittals, and they raised their idol Michael even higher. Jackson emerged from the courtroom taking the steps of a dazed man on a walk he must surely have wondered he would ever be free to make. How different 1 hour before, when the singer, looking ashen and heavily sedated, walked through the doors of American justice to learn his fate. In the courtroom, there were painfully silent minutes, a heavy stillness, before the judge handed the 10 verdicts to the clerk to read.
May the jury in the above entitled case find the defendant not guilty.
They came one by one, not guilty of conspiracy.
Find the defendant not guilty.
Not guilty of sexual abuse.
Not guilty.
And not guilty of plying the boy accuser with alcohol. For every verdict of innocence, a white dove was released into the sky.
I feel so dizzy, I feel like I've just fallen off a cliff. He can get on with his life. Look, I just missed my plane. But I don't care.
Michael Jackson was always innocent, and he was proven innocent by a jury of his peers.
You cannot argue with that.
The Jackson cavalcade twisted its way out of the court compound, and soon the singer was on his way back to his Neverland ranch on the US freeway as a free man, leaving his lawyer to respond to the verdict.
Justice was done. The man's innocent, he always was.
The eyes of the world have been on this case. 2,200 members of the media reporting for 34 different countries, every day questioning the evidence, but now analysing the verdict. So what won it for Jackson, and what lost it for the prosecution? Correspondents and legal analysts may pore over the trial's outcome for months, if not years, but former Sheriff Jim Thomas believes it all came down to credibility.
I think what won it for the Jackson was what lost it for the prosecution. And basically, I think that this jury did not like this family. And in particular, I don't think that they liked the mother of the accuser.
When the jurors assembled for their press conference, it soon became clear they were not impressed by the testimony or attitude of Gavin's mother.
What mother in her right mind would allow that to happen, or you know, just freely volunteer your child, you know, to sleep with someone, and not just so much Michael Jackson, but any person for that matter.
I disliked it intensely when she snapped her fingers at us. That's when I thought, don't snap your fingers at me, lady.
She didn't take her eyes off of us, so that was a very uncomfortable feeling.
So had District Attorney Tom Sneddon, the prosecutor, overestimated the credibility of his witnesses?
The system I worked in for 37 years is that people come in and they're the victims of crime. We don't select our victims, and we don't select the families they come from.
To the relief and screams from his devotees, Michael Jackson returned to Neverland. To the prosecution, it was the scene of the crime. To the defense, the singer's exotic world of make-believe. But now to the reality. Even though cleared of all charges, can he ever rebuild his career after such lurid allegations?
Die-hard fans determined to catch a glimpse of their hero. The Jackson Circus has rolled into town.
Michael! Michael!
London is a very unique place. Remember, we brought Prince here for 21 nights. Take That's done 8 nights. Britney's doing 8. It's a very, very unusual city for multiple concerts. And it's a real world city. It draws from all parts, and London seemed like the natural place to start this, I don't want to call it a comeback, but the return.
Front row, Michael Jackson. He's about to enter the building. Are you going to be able to cope?
We're going to faint.
How big a fan are you?
Very big, very big. Not as big as some people here, but very big. So.
He's about to announce all these dates, we think. Do you think he's going to be able to cope with this? Do you think he's past it, or he'll still be able to give a good performance?
Tina Turner can do it at 70, Michael Jackson can do it at 50.
I take it that you've been queuing for quite a while to get in here. Are you a dedicated Michael Jackson fan?
I am. I saw him in 1997 for the History Tour in Wembley. It was actually the best concert I've been to since then. It's just great. So I was well up for it. I got the email saying that it was going to be here, so I'd made sure I freed up all my time so that I get here.
What do you think it is about him after everything that's happened that thousands of people are still here today?
Oh, I think it's just his music. I mean, his music, his dancing skills. He's an amazing performer. I mean, he's really, he's incredible. Especially now he's 50 as well. I think a lot of people are going to want to come and see him perform live and, see what he has to offer. I'm 22 and I've loved him my entire life.
What do you think this press conference is going to be like today? What do you think he's going to give us?
I don't really think we're going to hear him. I think everyone's going to scream as soon as he walks in. We're not going to hear a word of it, so it's going to be a bit of a free-for-all, I think.
You know!
Ow! We are Michael!
Magical. He's just so iconic, and he gives me hopes and my dreams. He's just the king of pop. Full stop. Full stop.
Come on then, Michael Jackson, what is it? Why is he so special? Why are you at the front of this queue?
Because he is the king of music, not pop, music. In fact, he's just the king. I just love him, and I just love him, and I just love him.
And I pulled him aside and said, Mikey, why now? Okay, and he said to me, because you know what? My kids are old enough, and I'm still young enough to do what I do. I don't want them to see me, in my prime when I do for a living, because they've never seen me before.
I don't think he has to prove anything to pull it off. I mean, he's the legend he is. I mean, Michael Jackson's going to turn up and do his shows, and everybody will see that, the next chapter. People say, is it a comeback? I think when you're as big as Michael Jackson and when you're as a legend as Michael Jackson, nobody has achieved what you have achieved. So he's never left or lost his position. I don't think he has to beat himself. I think he has to just be himself.
It's been 20 years since Thriller and Off the Wall came out. He is the single greatest entertainer of all time, and if he's back and if he's anywhere near as good as he used to be, it'll be great. The music business needs big rock stars.
Michael Jackson's announcement of 10 concerts here is certainly a coup for the O2 Arena, and if those concerts go well, the expectation is that he'll add many more dates. But questions still remain about whether the Michael Jackson of today can still cut it live on such a big stage.
I went on the Radio 4 Today program with Pete Waterman the day that the tickets were going to go on sale. And we said, if you're going to buy tickets, make sure you buy for the first dozen shows, because this is not going to happen. He's either going to collapse or there will be a withdrawal with an excuse. The reason being, he's 50 years old. He hasn't done this in a decade.
As soon as I could get here, I got here. And even though I came here, there were still about 16 people in front of me. I've been here since Tuesday.
We came from the west of Ireland yesterday, or on Wednesday morning, and we've been queuing since.
It was so hard to get the tickets, so I just thought I'd just take the risk and just come down here and spend the night, and I just don't care.
What I did not think about was that the stress of the impending gigs as they came closer and closer might cause him so much stress that he would take more medication. We knew for years, because it was public knowledge, that he took medication for back pain. We didn't know how many different pills he was taking. This is a rerun of the Elvis Presley story.
Everybody has so much respect for him because he's so talented, and his talent is so wonderful, it will never die.
Good evening. We have breaking news for you tonight. The singer Michael Jackson is reported to have died from a heart attack. He collapsed at his home in Los Angeles about 3 hours ago. He was not breathing when paramedics arrived. They performed heart massage, and then they took him to the UCLA Medical Center in the city, where he's said to have gone into a deep coma. His family are at the hospital. The Los Angeles Times say he was pronounced dead a short time ago, quoting law enforcement sources. The singer had been due in London for a series of concerts during the summer. A controversial figure, he was cleared of child sex abuse charges 4 years ago. More recently, he has been dogged by financial problems. Watching this developing story over the last half hour is correspondent Rohit Katru, who joins me in the studio. What's the very latest?
The latest, Alistair, reports saying Michael Jackson was taken to hospital in Los Angeles. The TMZ website has reported that he suffered a cardiac arrest and that his sister LaToya was seen sobbing. And within the last few moments, we've had this from the Los Angeles Times, quoting doctors in the city saying that he arrived in hospital in a deep coma and has died.
An incredible man.
An incredible man. Few would doubt one of the greatest entertainers of all time. From Off the Wall to Thriller to Bad, he sang and danced and he moved people greatly. One of the great entertainers of all time.
Rohit, thank you very much indeed.
This has been the Jackson family home ever since they moved to Los Angeles from small-town Indiana back in the spring of 1971. It's here that plans were made and successes were celebrated. Now, of course, it's a place of mourning for his immediate family, all of whom survive him.
Huge crowds in Hollywood are queuing up to pay public tribute at what's left of a very private star. And it's a long wait, while the true story of what happened to their hero will take even longer to resolve.
Really would appreciate it very much if you take into consideration that individuals such as myself trying to sell and distribute Michael Jackson's one and only original T-shirts.
All things Jackson are now selling fast. His estate won't make anything from these instant souvenirs, but genuine memorabilia is now worth a fortune, and that will all help settle his debts.
Behind these fans here, there's people are writing messages on the walls and on cardboard. They're laying flowers at the entrance because the Jackson 5, this is where it all started out. They entered a talent contest and won, and you know, the rest was history. But it's going on 3 o'clock now here in Harlem, and there's still about 100 people out the front of the Apollo Theatre. They're all singing and dancing. You look at them over there, they're having a great time. It's as if Michael Jackson's spirit is amongst all of these people here. And a couple of hours ago, I was amongst the crowd. I spoke to a few of those as well, and have a little listen to what we found.
He will always be in everyone's hearts, and that's why everyone is here, and that's why everyone should God bless Michael Jackson.
Everybody loves Michael Jackson. I don't care what they try to say about him. He's the real, you know what I mean? They try to duplicate him, but they can't.
1968, I was here to see Michael and the Jackson 5 when they first came out at the Apollo Theater, 1968.
You were here?
Yes, I was a little girl. 1968.
What was that like?
Beautiful, amazing. What?
This is one of those tragedies that just won't lie down, because in death he's as fascinating as he was in life. With Elvis and John Lennon, it happened and was over. With this, it happened, and then it just kept happening in different ways.
Michael always said that he could handle it. Our worst nightmare was that he could not, that there would be an overdose.
Brian Oxman says he repeatedly warned Jackson and his family about the drug problem.
The man was in pain, and there was no question about it. He needed to have certain medications, but the problem becomes the overuse of medications, and that's something which people, I think all people, find very difficult to control. He simply wasn't able to control it.
Just the night before he died, Jackson was here at the Staples Centre in LA, rehearsing for his upcoming London shows. And by all accounts, it was a pretty energetic performance, running through 10 or 11 songs and dances. After which, Jackson's manager says the singer came up and put his arm around him and told him, "I am so happy. This is really our time."
It's tough. My family is being strong. We've always been a family, and we're just holding together, but it's very tough.
Fame found Michael very young, but ever since those early days, he and his older brother stayed close. So not surprisingly, Jermaine rushed to his young sibling's bedside the moment their mother, Catherine, confirmed the dreadful news.
She was crying, saying he was dead. Tried to console her a bit, but I wanted to see Michael. Seeing him there lifeless and breathless was very emotional for me, but I held myself together because I know he's very much alive. His spirit is, and that was just a shell. But I kissed him on his forehead, and I hugged him, and I touched him, and I said, "Michael, I'll never leave you."
The confusion over what happens to him in death now seems to be over. The Neverland Ranch will have no part to play, and maybe that's as it should be. Neverland reminds people of what was wrong with Michael Jackson. Huge stadiums remind us of what was right.